Clean and unclean animals. A closer look. The distinctions between clean and unclean animals are detailed in Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14. These passages provide comprehensive instructions on which animals are permissible to eat and which are not. Land animals. Clean animals must have cloven hooves and chew the cud. Examples include cattle, sheep, and deer. Unclean animals, such as pigs and rabbits, either do not have cloven hooves or do not chew the cud, making them unsuitable for consumption. Leviticus 11 verses 3 to 7, Deuteronomy 14 verses 6 to 8. Sea creatures. Only fish with both fins and scales are considered clean. This includes fish like bass, cod, and salmon. Sea creatures like shellfish, shrimp, and catfish, which lack either fins or scales, are deemed unclean. Leviticus 11 verses 9 to 12, Deuteronomy 14 verses 9 to 10. Birds. Clean birds include those that do not prey on others, such as chicken, turkey, and quail. Birds of prey and scavengers, like eagles, vultures, and ravens, are considered unclean. Leviticus 11 verses 13 to 19, Deuteronomy 14 verses 11 to 20. These dietary guidelines were established by Yahuah long before the law of Moses and were observed even in the time of Noah, where distinctions between clean and unclean animals were recognized. Genesis 7 verse 2. The importance of obedience and holiness. Obedience to Yahuah's dietary laws is not just about physical health but also about spiritual purity and holiness. Yahuah's care for what we eat stems from his desire for our well-being and spiritual wholeness. The Torah repeatedly emphasizes that these laws were given for our good and are a reflection of Yahuah's loving care for his people. And Yahuah commanded us to do all these laws, to fear Yahuah our Elohim, for our good always, to keep us alive as it is today. Deuteronomy 6 verse 24, TS 2009. Yahuah's commandments are timeless, and while modern agricultural practices and cooking methods may change our perceptions of food, they do not alter the fundamental distinctions Yahuah established in creation. Full Torah instructions on clean and unclean animals. To understand the full context of Yahuah's instructions regarding clean and unclean animals, it's essential to read the entire passages from the Torah. Leviticus 11. This chapter provides a detailed list of clean and unclean animals, fish, birds, and insects. It also discusses the consequences of coming into contact with unclean animals. Deuteronomy 14 verses 3 to 21. This passage reiterates the laws concerning clean and unclean animals, emphasizing the importance of maintaining dietary purity as a part of living a holy life before Yahuah. Here is the full text from Leviticus 11, TS 2009. And Yahuah spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying to them, "Speak to the children of Yisrael, saying, These are the living creatures which you do eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatever has a split hoof completely divided, chewing the cud, among the beasts that you do eat. But among those that chew the cud or those that have a split hoof completely divided, you do not eat, such as these. The camel, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you, and the rabbit, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you, and the hare, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you, and the pig, though it has a split hoof, completely divided, yet does not chew the cud, it is unclean. Their flesh you do not eat, and their carcasses you do not touch. They are unclean to you. These you do eat of all that are in the waters. Anyone that has fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, or in the rivers, that you do eat. But all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, all that move in the waters or any living being which is in the waters, they are an abomination to you. They are an abomination to you. Of their flesh you do not eat, and their carcasses you abominate. All that have not fins or scales in the waters are an abomination to you. Leviticus 11 verses 1 to 12, TS 2009. The full chapter goes on to describe the clean and unclean birds, creeping creatures, and the laws regarding touching unclean carcasses. It concludes with a reiteration of Yahuah's call to holiness. For I am Yahuah who is bringing you up out of the land of Mitzrayim to be your Elohim. And you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. Leviticus 11 verse 45, TS 2009. Deuteronomy 14 provides a similar summary of these laws, reinforcing the importance of dietary purity as part of the covenant relationship with Yahuah. Guidelines for clean and unclean animals. The Bible provides clear lists of animals that are clean and unclean in Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14. Clean animals. Land animals must have cloven hooves and chew the cud, cattle, sheep, deer. Sea creatures must have fins and scales, bass, salmon, trout. Birds, non-predatory birds like chicken, turkey, and quail. Unclean animals. Land animals, those without cloven hooves or that don't chew cud, pigs, rabbits. Sea creatures, without fins and scales, shrimp, catfish, shellfish. Birds, predatory or scavenger birds, eagles, vultures. Even before the Torah was given, Noah knew the difference between clean and unclean animals. Genesis 7 verse 2. Genesis 7 verse 2 in the TS 2009 translation highlights an important truth. Of all the clean beasts take with you 7 pairs, a male and his female, and of the beasts that are unclean 2, a male and his female. Before the Torah was formally given to Moses and before the Jewish nation existed, Noah, who was not a Jew, was instructed to distinguish between clean and unclean animals. This distinction implies that the principles of Yahuah's law were already known and understood, even in the pre-Abrahamic world. This underscores the universal nature of Yahuah's law, demonstrating that it was not intended solely for one nation but for all humanity. The delineation of clean and unclean reflects eternal standards established by Yahuah, relevant to everyone who seeks to walk in obedience. From a scientific perspective, the concept of clean and unclean animals, as outlined in the Torah and referenced in Genesis, aligns in some cases with modern understandings of hygiene, diet, and disease prevention. Here's a breakdown with scientific explanations. Clean animals. These are typically herbivores that chew the cud and have cloven hooves: cattle, sheep, goats, deer. Birds listed as clean are generally non-predatory, and clean fish have fins and scales. Scientific rationale. Digestive system. Animals that chew the cud have a multi-chambered stomach, which allows for thorough digestion of plant material, reducing toxins and parasites in their system. Example: cattle and sheep filter harmful substances effectively through their digestive processes. Hooves and environment. Animals with cloven hooves often graze on grass rather than scavenging or foraging in potentially contaminated environments. Example: pigs, which lack cloven hooves and are classified as unclean, forage and consume diverse diets, including decaying matter. Fish with fins and scales. Such fish are usually found in cleaner waters and are less likely to harbor toxins or parasites compared to shellfish or bottom feeders. Example: shellfish, like shrimp or clams, are unclean because they filter water and accumulate harmful pollutants and toxins. Unclean animals. These include predators, scavengers, and certain insects. Examples: pigs, shellfish, vultures, and animals without fins and scales. Scientific rationale. Pigs. Pigs are omnivorous scavengers, consuming a wide range of food, including carrion. They often carry parasites like Trichinella spiralis, which causes trichinosis if undercooked. Shellfish. Filter feeders accumulate heavy metals, toxins, and pathogens, increasing the risk of foodborne illnesses. Disease transmission. Scavengers like vultures and carnivores are more likely to harbor pathogens due to their exposure to decaying flesh or other diseased animals. Example: bats, classified as unclean, are known carriers of zoonotic diseases, e.g., rabies, coronaviruses. Hygienic practices. birds of prey and scavengers, like eagles and ravens, consume carrion, which increases the likelihood of exposure to toxins and harmful bacteria. Scientific and spiritual parallels. Avoiding unclean animals aligns with modern recommendations for disease prevention and food safety. For example, avoiding undercooked pork or contaminated shellfish reduces risks of parasitic infections and foodborne illnesses. Environmental context. In ancient times, without modern refrigeration or cooking methods, these dietary laws likely served as practical guidelines for maintaining health and hygiene. Spiritual insight. The division between clean and unclean animals symbolizes purity and obedience to Yahuah, emphasizing discipline in what people consume and how they live. From a scientific view, many unclean animals pose higher health risks compared to clean animals. This supports the idea that the Torah's dietary laws were designed for humanity's well-being, reflecting timeless principles that are still relevant today. The clean and unclean distinctions show a harmonious blend of divine wisdom and practical science. Modern-day arguments claiming dietary laws are no longer applicable. 1. New Testament interpretations. Key argument. Passages like Acts 10 verses 9 to 16 and Mark 7 verses 18 to 19 are often cited as evidence that dietary laws were abolished through the Messiah. Key verses. Acts 10 verses 9 to 16. And on the next day, as they were on their way and approaching the city, Kepha went up on the housetop to pray, about the 6th hour. And he became hungry and wished to eat. But while they were preparing, he fell into a trance, and he saw the heaven opened and a certain vessel like a great sheet bound at the four corners, descending to him and let down to the earth, in which were all kinds of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping creatures, and birds of the heaven. And a voice came to him, "Rise up, Kepha, slay and eat." But Kepha said, "Not at all, Master, because I have never eaten whatever is common or unclean." And a voice came to him again the second time, "What Elohim has cleansed you do not consider common." And this took place 3 times, and the vessel was taken back to the heaven. Mark 7 verses 18 to 19. And he said to them, "Are you also without understanding? Do you not perceive that whatever enters a man from outside is unable to defile him, because it does not enter his heart but his stomach, and is eliminated, thus purging all the foods?" Counterpoint. Acts 10 is clarified later in the chapter. In Acts 10 verse 28, Peter explains, "But Elohim has shown me that I should not call any man common or unclean." This vision was about accepting Gentiles, not changing dietary laws. Mark 7 refers to the tradition of ritual hand-washing, Mark 7 verse 5, and does not nullify clean and unclean distinctions from the Torah. Health and hygiene advances. Key argument. Modern practices like refrigeration and proper cooking supposedly mitigate the risks associated with unclean animals. Example, properly cooking pork is believed to eliminate parasites like Trichinella spiralis, making it safe to eat. Shellfish farms are regulated to reduce contamination. Counterpoint. Risks persist even today. For example, pork, antibiotic-resistant bacteria and zoonotic diseases, like hepatitis E, are common. Shellfish, filter feeders still accumulate heavy metals and toxins that can lead to severe health issues. Scriptural reminder. Leviticus 11 verse 47. To make a distinction between the unclean and the clean, and between the living creature that is eaten and the living creature that is not eaten. The Torah's laws prioritize holiness, not just physical health. 3. Cultural and economic convenience. Key argument. Some claim that dietary laws were specific to the ancient Israelite culture and are no longer relevant for modern, globalized societies. Example, pork and shellfish are staples in many diets worldwide and are often cheaper than clean alternatives. Counterpoint. The Torah emphasizes that these laws are eternal and not merely cultural. Leviticus 11 verse 44. "For I am Yahuah your Elohim, and you shall set yourselves apart." And you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. And do not defile yourselves with any swarming creature, the one creeping on the earth. These laws demonstrate holiness and obedience to Yahuah, not convenience. 4. Spiritual focus on inner purity. Key argument. Many argue that the new covenant focuses on spiritual purity and faith, making dietary laws unnecessary. They reference verses like Romans 14 verse 17. For the reign of Elohim is not eating and drinking, but righteousness and peace and joy in the set-apart spirit. Counterpoint. The dietary laws were never about salvation but about living in obedience and holiness. Deuteronomy 14 verses 2-3. For you are a set-apart people to Yahuah your Elohim, and Yahuah has chosen you to be a people for himself, a treasured possession above all the peoples who are on the face of the earth. Do not eat whatever is abominable. Scientific relevance supporting dietary laws. Health risks persist. Despite modern advances, unclean animals often carry higher risks of disease, toxins, and contaminants. Example, shellfish poisoning and zoonotic infections from pork are still concerns today. Environmental context. Unclean animals often play ecological roles that make them unsuitable for consumption, scavengers like vultures or pigs. Modern interpretations and conveniences may try to dismiss the dietary laws, but Scripture and science both affirm their ongoing relevance. These laws are not merely about health. They reflect eternal principles of holiness and obedience to Yahuah. Leviticus 11 verse 45. For I am Yahuah who is bringing you up out of the land of Mitzrayim to be your Elohim. And you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. Yahusha's example of keeping the dietary laws. Yahusha, the Messiah, perfectly observed the Torah, including its dietary laws, during his life on earth. As the ultimate example for his followers, he upheld the commands of Yah, teaching and demonstrating obedience to the Father's will. Yahusha's adherence to the dietary laws. Torah observance. Yahusha himself affirmed that he came not to abolish the law but to fulfill it. Matthew 5 verses 17-18, TS 2009. Do not think that I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy but to complete. For truly I say to you, till the heaven and the earth pass away, one yod or one tittle shall by no means pass from the Torah till all be done. This includes dietary laws, as part of the Torah given by Yahuah. Obedience to the Torah as holiness. Yahusha lived a sinless life, meaning he never transgressed the Torah. Eating unclean animals would have been a violation of Yahuah's commands, making it impossible for him to remain the spotless Lamb of Yahuah. 1 Peter 2 verse 22, TS 2009. Who committed no sin, nor was deceit found in his mouth. Respect for the commandments. Yahusha rebuked the Pharisees for prioritizing human traditions over the commands of Yahuah. He emphasized obedience to the Torah, including its dietary instructions. Mark 7 verse 9, TS 2009. And he said to them, well, do you set aside the command of Elohim in order to guard your tradition? Yahusha's example of keeping the dietary laws. Yahusha, the Messiah, perfectly observed the Torah, including its dietary laws, during his life on earth. As the ultimate example for his followers, he upheld the commands of Yah, teaching and demonstrating obedience to the Father's will. How can we apply these teachings? Read Scripture, study the detailed lists in Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14. Make wise choices, choose foods that align with Yahuah's guidelines. Embrace these instructions as part of a holy lifestyle. By following Yahuah's dietary laws, we show our love and obedience to him while caring for our physical and spiritual well-being. These laws are an expression of Yahuah's love, designed for our good and his glory. Loving Elohim is walking in his ways with a joyful heart, reflecting his holiness in all we do. Let our obedience be a living testimony of our devotion to him. Until next time, Shalom.